Hi, Mike from 850 Armor Works here, and in this video we're going to go over one of our shop favorite materials, Evercoat Polyflex. It's a lot like Bondo, but it is meant for ABS bumpers. It is specifically a flexible polyester glazing putty. It acts and operates almost identically to Bondo. Online on Amazon, it's about $45 for that, and that is probably a lifetime supply for any model and kit builder that's going to be doing these. Various tools you'll see me using here are usually clean spatulas, gloves. Gloves are really nice. You need personal protection equipment. I'll grab those here in a second whenever we actually pull up our piece and go over the prep work. Let me get a little camera here. Let's just go to the bench camera. Evercoat Polyflex. So you can find it on Amazon, no problem. So the part that we're going to be working on is filling the seam for a tank trooper shoulder straps here. And you're still working with a basic butt joint, but we're using special product in the Evercoat Polyflex. You especially need to sand where you really want it to stick. If it's on any glossy part, it's likely it can flake off, and you can also expect it to take 2 applications. Sometimes you can get it in 1. Sometimes it just needs that second one for a little bit of shrinkage. So we got the piece prepped with a little bit of 80 grit. Just 80 grit sandpaper. Nothing real special. And let's dust it off. Let me grab a pair of gloves because personal protection equipment's important when you're working with polyester. Even though this material is similar to Bondo, it's still different in many respects, especially coming to the mix ratio. It's really easy to mix up way too much, and you never really want to mix up more than a silver dollar at a time unless you want half of it to cure on you, or you have a lot. And see, I just made that real gloppy and gloopy. Really need to clean up your stuff here. That's about a silver dollar. It's a good amount, and it's also free-flowing material here. It'll go into gaps pretty easily. It's thinner than most Bondo. Don't know what the chemical properties are that really make it different. For the hardener, it's a blue hardener, and you pretty much only use a dot. You barely need any in it. But it's very, very important that it changes to a light blue color. If it's a light gray color, then that is wrong. Blue color is very important. You don't want it to be gray. If it turns gray, it's likely not going to cure properly. And what I'm doing here too is spreading it thin, making sure it's well mixed. And the thinner it's spread, the slower it's going to cure. And I'm really concentrating on filling this void. This void was the worst, the right side. So we want to fill that. This isn't really specifically a filler material, but it does work as a filler. So this is definitely going to take 2 coats. I can already see that. I'll try to stack as much as I can. Sometimes it just doesn't cooperate perfectly. That's not bad though. Still got 1 gap back there. The other side's thankfully a lot thinner. And any areas that aren't sanded, this is actually going to peel up fairly easily from. But I still don't like to leave excess glop because that's just more sanding that you have to do. That looks pretty decent. Push the other side in real quick. It's just a simple butt joint seam fill on this side. I've done this with clone troopers thousands of times, it feels like. Well, there were a lot of clone troopers, so I've done it quite a bit. Still got a good amount left over, and it's already started to kick a little. It's turning into cottage cheese. Sanding time, I really like to wait as long as possible on this. It's not like Bondo that can really be sanded within half an hour. I wait at least an hour. It can clog up sandpaper pretty badly, so it's best to sit out just as long as you can. Do it in ambient temperatures, not too cold, not too hot. The hotter it is, the faster it's going to kick. Just little things about the material. Other than that, it's wonderful. That side's done in one coat, and this side's going to need another coat. We'll wait for it to kick. And now that the first layer of Evercoat has had a chance to dry here just a little bit, we're going to go ahead and put on the second coat to finish bridging in this gap. This one seems just fine. It's going to keep drying so it can be sanded, and we'll go over that here in a bit. So first things first, we still have to prep the surface. We're not trying to take much off, but we still need to create that tooth. So just running across it with the 80 grit, so it has somewhere to stick to. You know, create this little bit of a tooth. And don't forget our personal protection equipment. Try to mix up even less this time since the other side seemed to have enough. Like before, it's just going to take a dot. It's going to take an even smaller of a dot now. That color of blue is still very important. It's very easy to mix up these batches hot, so this one's going to turn out pretty bright blue. This Polyflex material works on all plastic except for what your super glue bottles come in. That's one of the only plastics and pretty much nothing will stick to. It's pretty much Teflon. Its name slips my mind for the moment. Yeah, it's a nice dark blue. Again, it's not going to take very much. We're just bridging it in. Cleaning up a little bit of the excess. Helps if your plastic spreader here is a little cleaner. And that's it. That's all set and ready. Got some extra blue on there. Now that the filler is applied to both sides, we're going to let it cure up overnight and sand it in the morning. It's had overnight to dry now. So we have our foam sander out with some 220 grit paper. I like the purple stuff. And it's got a good stick back to it and is a little bit more durable than some cheaper grades. Nothing special to this. We'll go back over to the dual cam view. We won't need this anymore today, hopefully. Everything looks pretty good. We should just be sanding. I doubt it needs a coat. So I said we got 220 grit, and we're going to just sand it lightly until everything is nice and smoothed over. One thing to note about this, it does tend to clog sandpaper, so you'll see me checking it kind of regularly and trying to use fresh spots wherever I can. Mentioned before, the bluer it is, the more dry it'll be. We've got, really dark blue from that second application there, and a little bit more lighter of like a sea green or something of that nature. Also, since the shoulder straps are going over it, we're not too concerned about perfection down the center, just really the edges that are going to be exposed. But it'll all end up sanding anyway. Now right here, I'm just evening up that uneven corner that was taken off on the belt sander earlier, just planing it right off. There we go. Sanding is now complete. It's very smooth. It runs straight across. I don't feel any bumps. It'll paint just fine. There's not really any over buildup anywhere. Just smooth it right down to a nice butt joint. And that's it for the Evercoat tutorial here. That'll wrap it up for this suit. The same techniques definitely apply to any other suit that you need to fill a seam on. Works great with clone troopers. That's really the primary place where we first started using it, probably in 2004, 2005, when we were making seamless clone parts. It's always been a wonderful product as long as you use it properly. This is not a paid endorsement from Evercoat whatsoever. It's just a shop product we use. We use a lot of Evercoat. We use a lot of PPG. We use a lot of Tamiya. We use a lot of 3M. Obviously, we like DeWalt sanders pretty well. They've always held up. We've got several Ryobi belt sanders from personal preference and really just market availability. So, that's tools. It's a workshop. And I hope whenever you get to enjoy this building experience that you'll be able to put this to good use. Thank you and happy trooping.